Hi, I'm Kurt Cornum, and I call this presentation Waves, Platforms, and the Internet of Things because it is an amalgamation of the thoughts and opinions I expressed last year about how the waves of innovation and the rise of digital platforms are influencing and being influenced by the adoption of IoT solutions. Let's dive in. Several authors have described how new technology seems to come in waves. I'm putting my own spin on this by defining several waves and then looking at them through an IoT lens. For clarity, my working definition of IoT is collecting, analyzing, and acting upon data that is gathered from a variety of network-connected devices that are equipped with various types of sensors and actuators. I'm starting with the wave of personal productivity for a couple reasons. First, in what could best be described as dumb luck and great timing, I got out of the Marine Corps the same month that the original IBM PC was introduced. I went back to college, and one of the first classes I took was on microcomputer programming, and those skills helped me catch this wave. But more importantly, from a technology perspective, this wave spawned the client-server architecture that decoupled the endpoints from the network from the compute and storage, and the compute and storage from the applications. And from a business perspective, what started out as a way to automate existing business functions, this so-called Wintel platform helped enable the commercialization of the internet and was the platform being used by many users when several of today's tech leaders like Amazon, Google, Facebook, and eBay were founded. Heck, it even survived the Y2K millennial bug and the dot-com bubble. But as the internet grew and the dot-bomb survivors matured, open source software gained traction, web applications got more sophisticated, and content started moving to what we now call the cloud. This cloud-based content was more accessible across multiple devices, and by the mid-2000s a new, more mobile wave was forming. And this wave of mobile engagement has become a tsunami. With the release of iOS, the App Store, then Android, and the Play Store, these platforms have become the primary means of digital engagement for many business-to-consumer and business-to-business users. And the dominance of these mobile platforms is impressive. According to Statista.com, around 1.5 billion new mobile devices were sold in 2016, and in December of 2017, Android or iOS were installed on 93% of them. And because these smartphones are GPS enabled, apps can deliver location-aware information in real time. This one feature has shifted power from the producer to the consumer and has enabled the rise of many more platforms that deliver on-demand services, many of them using a subscription-based business model. This wave also includes the proliferation of compute or infrastructure as a service, which continues to spawn born-in-the-cloud companies that are creating even more engagement platforms that are challenging many of the old-school product-based business models. And this wave is far from over. One reason is that mobile devices play multiple roles in the Internet of Things. Not only are they GPS enabled, most modern smartphones are equipped with over 10 sensors and support at least 3 network connectivity options. And with unlocked versions and lower cost models now on the market, we should expect to see these devices being adopted by organizations to provide a full range of IoT services, from sensing to aggregating to visualizing and controlling. Not only does technology seem to come in waves, but each wave seems to rely on the learnings or output from the previous wave. That is surely the case with our next wave, the wave of digital understanding or data science. The rise in mobile engagement meant that billions of users with sensor-packed smartphones were generating an unprecedented amount of structured and unstructured data. And the major platform players, for example, Google for search, Amazon for e-commerce, Facebook for social, and Microsoft for productivity, they realized that understanding the trends within this data could provide a competitive advantage, so they started applying advanced algorithms and machine learning techniques. With all this data to help tune their machine learning models, we have seen vast improvements in image recognition, speech translation, and computer vision over the last few years, which is a good thing. On the downside, with many of the top data scientists now working for the large platform providers, it will likely be challenging for all but the largest enterprises to build internal teams that can match the advanced analytics capabilities and scale of these tech leaders. Not surprising, these same companies and others are making their analytics platforms available, for a fee of course. I don't want to play favorites, so I invite you to Google Data Science as a Service to find a list of these companies and more interesting info on the topic. And like mobile engagement, this wave of digital understanding is far from over. Which brings us to our next wave, the wave of autonomy. You could argue that this wave started before last year, but compared to the advancements we will see in the next 5 years, this wave is far from cresting. When most people hear the word autonomy, they probably think of driverless cars. But if you zoom out a bit, the wave of autonomy is really about creating grids or meshes of decentralization that rely on the technology from the prior waves. And these meshes will continue to blend our digital and physical worlds by using even more technology like edge analytics, smart actuators, blockchain, and deep learning. Autonomy is at the core of the Internet of Things. To realize its promise, we will have to take data from the sensors, make sense of it, and then use it to control physical objects that will be integrated into our daily lives. And we will have to automate as many of these functions as possible because of the sheer number of devices and the amount of data that will be involved. That's where platforms come in. Delivering full-stack IoT solutions at scale requires robust digital platforms. And not surprisingly, the large platform players are now offering IoT-specific platforms to help design, build, and operate these solutions. We will cover the IoT platforms in a minute, but first, let's check out one last wave. It's the wave of augmentation. I think this wave is still a couple years out, but there are already augmentation-like solutions. Things like virtual reality headsets and software-based augmented reality programs. But these are relatively simplistic compared to the truly life-changing augmentation solutions I'm talking about. When it comes to technology, I used to say there is no destination, there is only the journey. But if you consider where human-machine augmentation is likely to go, I'm starting to think this might be the endgame. From smart exoskeletons to brain-computer interfaces, over time sensors will move from being with us, like they are with our smartphones, to being on us, like they are with our fitness trackers, to being in us. And once that happens, maybe there is no singularity. We don't have to worry about machines becoming smarter than us, because they are us. Now, before I get accused of being a futurist, I'll admit there is more hype than reality around human-machine augmentation, but after a quick Google search, here are just a few of the articles I found on the topic. So, those are the waves of innovation as I see them. You might argue the placement of some of the underlying tech, but what is hard to argue is that these waves are compressing. In other words, the time between each wave is getting shorter. When you hear people say the pace of innovation is faster than it has ever been, this is what they're referring to. And because it can take years to absorb any one of these waves, this compression is making it a real challenge for organizations to realize the value of all the innovation we just covered, which brings us back to the platforms. As we covered each wave, you probably noticed that there are platforms powering each one of them, and the power of these commercially available platforms comes from providing the talent and the tools needed for companies to accelerate their time to market, which allows them to catch and keep riding a wave. For example, if you look at the IoT stack, most commercially available platforms provide tools to support at a minimum the technology you see here in dark blue. And from a services perspective, these platforms help companies automate the functions you see here in dark blue, which allows them to get their solutions to market faster and to operate them efficiently at scale. To wrap this up, I thought I'd share my IoT outlook for 2018. First, the waves of digital understanding and autonomy will converge because I don't believe you can achieve autonomy without strong data science. And because the platform providers have somewhat of a lock on the data science side, the power of these same providers will increase on the IoT side. Next, vertical solutions will drive demand for cross-domain knowledge, which will make the need for a new breed of ecosystem of partners more obvious and critical. And last but not least, because of some high visibility security incidents coupled with more sophisticated network edge requirements, organizations will create a new role focused on defining reference architectures that specifically take into account all the intricacies of supporting the IoT. So that's it for now. I hope you found this information enlightening and useful. If you'd like to talk about any of this content in more detail, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thanks for listening.